Good morning, everyone. Thank you to those who've joined us today. This is our first webinar of the year. We like to do them every couple of months to make sure our clients and our colleagues are informed about first of all, what we're doing at Legalese, but most importantly, is updates around the law and updates that are really important for our clients to know about running their businesses. Today's topic is all about financial year end, which is coming, and what you have to do from a compliance point of view to get ready for financial year and to close the year out. Not on face value, doesn't sound like the sort of thing you're going to log in for to do on a Sunday morning, but it's really important. You get one opportunity to get this right every year. It's a good opportunity to make sure that all your compliance is sorted. You've done the kind of boring back end stuff that's really important to get done for your company. So we're gonna dig in. I'm gonna introduce Teresa in a minute. But yeah, thanks so much to everyone for joining. And if you've got questions about it, you're welcome to reach out to myself or Terry afterwards. Cool. So without further ado, I'm Eitan. I'm the director of Legalese. I'm a commercial lawyer, and we work with hundreds of clients in the South African ecosystem and from abroad, companies that are launching in South Africa, to work on legal aspects. We do commercial law, we do IP law, we do regulations law, and we do labor. We're a very company culture focused company, and everything that we do focuses on how to make sure we make legal services accessible and affordable, and we're sort of a new brand of lawyer. And I'm joined today by Teresa Govender, or Terry, from Infodocs. Infodocs is a tech platform which manages company secretarial for South African companies. I'm going to let Terry explain a bit more. But Terry is a submission specialist, and she worked at SIPSI for more than a decade, and she's an expert on all things SIPSI. And now she's come to share some tips on how to get your company ready for financial year end, your SIPSI compliance ready for financial year end. So I'm going to hand over to her in a minute, and once she's spoken, I'm going to just chat a little bit from a more broader perspective around the legals behind a business and how you get your company ready for financial year end for everything outside of SIPSI. So without further ado, Terry, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Eitan, for that warm welcome. It's actually my first time on a webinar, so I'm like really glad to be here. So yes, good day everyone. My name is Teresa Govender. You can call me Terry for short. I am a submission specialist at Infodocs. So just a bit of a background for Infodocs. It is an online company secretarial software that helps you get CIPC compliant. Transactions such as annual returns, beneficial ownership, company amendments, and share registers are generated automatically, and just helps make compliance for your company a pain-free and streamlined process. So through Infodocs, so this another service is basically another service and layer to assist and align with CIPC goals, making it easier to be compliant. Things like your compliance checklist it requires, not many people know this, but it does fall in line with annual returns to be submitted. It's basically it requires companies to declare their status of compliance for certain sections in the Companies Act by answering a series of questions. This must be submitted yearly with your annual returns, and Infodocs has basically structured it so that the average person, it's more easier for them to understand it. Not everyone's going to dive into different parts of the Company Act, so you can find that on our homepage at www.infodocs.co.za. It just kind of makes it easier for your average person to navigate, understand the process, and basically just answer a few questions to be compliant, and then submit your annual returns, of course. So there's also things like beneficial ownership that needs to be, that's come about in the last 2 or 3 years. This is mandatory for all companies. BO is basically a list of who the ultimate owner is on a company in terms of the shareholding. The list is used for anti-laundering purposes and law enforcement to ensure criminal activities are kept at bay. So this is something very interesting that's come about. I know CIPC has never actually kept a record of shares being issued. So now that they've implemented this, it's kind of a great way to see the full picture on a company, not just the directors, but who the shareholders are on a company as well. Touched base a bit on annual returns. This is also mandatory. It's a yearly fee to keep your company active, and falls part of the CIPC regulations. Failing to do so will result in the deregistration of the company. And I think a lot of people are currently experiencing that at the moment, where the CIPC has gone through this whole um, list of companies that are just being deregistered at different points in time in the year. Now being one of them in February, they've actually end of January and starting February, they've started to deregister a lot of companies that are not compliant. Um, but just to summarize, I think it's always good to ensure that you have someone keeping a record of your company and the books, keeping track of important deadline requirements, creating schedule for these dates. Infodocs is an amazing platform to do that. It sends reminders to our users, and it's a very helpful online software just for your secretarial purposes. Yeah, so that's in a short little summary about what's required on the CIPC end. I'm sure if anybody's got questions, we can take them on later. But over to you, Eitan.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Terry. Um, just one question from my side. So with InfoDocs, it's managed, everything is managed on an online platform,
Yes,
or how does it
correct.
work?
Most transactions. So most transactions being your annual returns, your beneficial ownership, changing directors, financial year end being one of them as well. You've got member changes, dates that it's so nifty where you just have the dates of the company, the registration details, who the directors are. You can manage your share registers on there. It's
Awesome.
quite a nifty little tool, and it just kind of streamlines and helps your average person to make organizing a company so much better, so much easier, so much more convenient and
Brilliant.
user friendly.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to dig into the next part, which is getting ready for financial year end from a legal perspective. Um, can you see my screen? Um, I'm just going to assume you can. Cool. So I'm Eitan. As I said, I'm the director of legalese. Um, so what I want to talk about is legal compliance as an overall thing. What we in your business. It's often an ongoing journey. It's not something that you tick off a list and then it's done. Things in your company changes. Your business itself changes, and periodically, I think what all companies need to do is to look into the legals behind their business and make sure that everything is still up to date and sorted. Um, so what that can mean is, it, well, I'm going to go through a few aspects of what that can mean, but at legalese, we say that lawyers are best used prophylactically. So we best used to prevent issues before they come up. And so going through the different aspects of legal in your business and making sure that things are sorted is a really good exercise to do. And there's no better time to do it than financial year end because you've got to do some submissions, your tax is due, there's some like regulatory aspects that are due. So it's a really good juncture to look at things. So what I want to go through is a little tool that we've built, which goes through a couple of aspects of your business's compliance and make sure that things are sorted. And if it's not, you can get you can get notified of different things that you need to look into. What I'm doing is I'm sharing my screen of a little checklist that we've built. We will share the link with everyone who's been here afterwards. So if you want to do this checklist, you can. The first thing you're going to look at is corporate governance and risk, right? Corporate governance is one of those really underlooked aspects of a business, but it's really important for running a business. If you've got shareholders, partners, investors, or anyone else involved in your business that's not yourself, then it's really important to make sure the governance of the business, the structural things on how this business runs, how decisions are made are taken care of. So the first thing would be to make sure all board resolutions are up to date. Board resolutions of the decisions of the business. You need to report those decisions sometimes to regulators, sometimes to your partners or investors. You need to make sure that all the resolutions of decisions you've made in the last year have been updated. I'm going to put that as yes. The second thing to look at is that all your company policies are up to date. Poppy being one of them, but you might have anti-corruption policies, you might have AML policies in your business, you might have staff policies around how your staff work, how does remote work happen in your business? What's your conflict of interest policy? What's your sexual harassment policy in the workspace? So all these things need to be looked at because, if you've got anyone working in your business that isn't you, they need to know how to function within the business. These things need to be recorded. Sometimes it's required by law. Sometimes it's required by just by, the nature of running a business. That's something to make sure you look at. Other aspect to look at is whether you've updated everything with the information regulator. What that means is, this is something which is required through Poppy. So to make sure that all the information that you have an information officer nominated for your business, that you've updated the regulator. Um, Another thing is business insurance, right? It's a risk and is real in the business. If you have something of value in a business, you need to make sure it's properly insured. It's funny, I was actually busy doing this morning, contacting our insurer, making sure all of our laptops are properly insured, and something which we review once a year. But if you have a product-based business and you sell product, is your products insured? If you run a service-based business, do you have professional indemnity insurance? So really good juncture to look into, are you adequately insured? Because that's how you manage some real risk in your business. Next section is intellectual property, right? So with most 21st century businesses, the most valuable asset that your business has is probably the IP that you're developing. And this doesn't mean you have to be a tech company developing software, but it could be your brand. Like the most valuable thing often for a company is the brand that they've worked and invested in and get people to recognize over years. So is your logo protected? Is your name protected? Second aspect might be technology that you're licensing. Is that all secured? Do you have the ability to continue licensing it? Are the rates correct? It's a really good opportunity once a year to look into tech that you license to make sure that it is all protected. The third area to look at is shareholder and stakeholder communication. Again, really often overlooked, but it's super important. This is the backbone of ensuring that communication with your shareholders is aligned and accurate. People that aren't involved in the day-to-day business, how are you updating them about what's going on in the business and how things have gone? Now, there are some regulatory aspects that you have to do. You need to do an AGM, an annual general meeting, and you need to minute those and you need to circulate those minutes to your shareholders. Another thing you might want to do is, as you're deciding your strategy for the year, are you updating your shareholders and your stakeholders correctly? Really good time to look into it because you need to close off one financial year and move into the next. That's about updating. And then the next thing of the year is going to be compliance, regulation and compliance. So for all of our companies, we all need to stay compliant with different regulators, right? SIBC is going to affect all companies. For us, as a legal practice, we've got a regulator of the Law Society. We need to make sure that we are in good standing with them. If you're a payments company, there might be a payments regulator you need to comply with. Or if you're in aviation, there's the CAA. So you need to make sure that you're compliant with your regulator and they're happy with you and you're in good standing. Again, end of the financial year, there's probably going to be submissions that you need for your specific regulator or fees that need to be paid. So it's a great opportunity to look into it and make sure everything is updated and you are compliant. And the last area here, which I'm just going to mention, is Poppy. So data is becoming increasingly central to all company operations. Whether you're sending out mailers or storing payment details, you need to make sure that you treat the client data that you collect accordingly. So you might have Poppy policies in place which reflect how you store data and how you collect it and how you use it. That might have changed over the last year as your business developed. So you might need to look at those policies and make sure they're correct. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to make sure that you have an information officer nominated and ensure that their details are correct. So that's just a couple of the things that we've identified are really important to look at financial year end. As I say, it's really worth going through this checklist and submitting for yourself. If you do that, you'll get one of our lawyers and our team will get in contact with you, and they'll look through your results and put together an action plan to make sure you're sorted so you can start this next financial year fresh, everything being up to date and ready for the scale that you're planning. So that's sort of it from our side. If you're looking for a sign to kind of take care of those legal gremlins, the things that were important but not urgent, take this as a sign, and you can use this as an opportunity to look at all the different legal aspects behind your business and the different SIPC compliance, as Teresa spoke about, and make sure that everything is sorted going into the 2025-2026 financial year end or financial year. If there are any questions, now's a good opportunity. I'm just checking the chat. We don't have any questions. And then in the Q&A, I'll stay for another minute in case anyone has questions. But if not, then short and sweet. That's how we like to do these things at Legalese. Quick bit of information. Everyone's got a lot to do in their day. If you want to get hold of us, just reach out to us at Legalese or go check out InfoDocs. And we're here to help if you come stuck on any of these things. Terry, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to meet you, and we look forward to working with you in InfoDocs further.